Lashana Tova, bitches. It is your favorite Lil Jew girl and the only Jew standing here in Tennessee in the Bible Belt. Guys, I wake up on the first day of the Jewish New Year, and this is about to get a little biblical. I'm going somewhere with this. Hang in there, bear with me because it ties into this whole episode and the end, right? But so I wake up on the first day of the Jewish New Year, had a beautiful service last night, which I will share with you. And I'm like, fresh start. Things are new, broadening the horizons. And what do I wake up to? But a complete and utter shitstorm of all of these celebrities who continue to have this really weird fetish and glutton for punishment of themselves and canceling themselves. It's getting really weird. I don't know what actually is going on, but I actually think it's very concerning because it is very telling of our culture at large. Think about it. Why do we have this weird obsession and incessant need to literally repent and punish ourselves? It's getting freaky deaky and it's really getting weird. So today we are going to hit the Ashton Kutcher stepping down from his own organization amidst the Danny Masterson case. I know we're dealing with heavy themes, but don't you worry. We got it in Talk to Me Taylor style. We got it in Cancel Me Baby style. And you could probably see like my dental work from the past 10 years because we're upgraded, bitches. Like Beyonce will upgrade you. I mean, check out this camera. It's like you may as well be in my greasy hair right now because is this not crisp as a fall apple, as a basic bitches apple crisp oat milk Starbucks latte? I mean, me and you, we're getting closer than ever. So needless to say, it's going to be an experience. Okay, so we got Ashton, we got Drew Barrymore, we got Bill Maher, and the big kahuna that we just found out about literally this morning, but Russell Brand and the allegations against him. Okay, so let's get spiritual. Let's go to the temple that is Cancel Me Baby for a minute. So before because like I said, it's the through line and it pertains to all of this. So oddly enough, I went to Rosh Hashanah, which, like I said, is the Jewish New Year. I'm not trying to poach you into the Jewish faith. Okay. I went to a service last night and it was really beautiful. And let's be real here, okay? I act like I'm this like big bad Jew. I've probably been to 6 services in the last decade, okay? But in all seriousness, I was just having this conversation last night because I'm like, I just feel like every time I go, it always makes me feel grounded and connected. And I don't like being tied to one religion, but I am a very spiritual person. Like I know on this show, I'm very hyperbolic, okay? I like the dramatic effect and I will always joke about being a witch, but I am very spiritual. So I will put a hex on you today. No, don't cross me. Don't fuck with me, bitch. No, but I am very spiritual in my day to day and do believe in something greater and something bigger in all of it and practice it in some way, shape, or form every day. And when I was younger, so my mom is Catholic and my dad is Jewish, and they basically gave me a choice, which is interesting because today we're going to be talking about our own decisions. And I always just really resonated with Judaism. I always felt like Catholicism was scary. Like, I always just felt like it had themes of, and I know I'm in the Bible Belt, so I literally have a target on my back. I was saying this, but I just felt like it always had these really heavy themes of like condemnation and, confess and you're a sinner and wrong and judgmental and all this. And I always felt like Judaism was just always about love and light and being so grateful for, the powerful forces that be and day by day and being alive and being a good person, right? And it's interesting because I was thinking about all of this obviously last night and today, and here I am seeing all of these people just, like I said, incessantly repent. And it's really weird to me because I feel like there's just so much more value in the light. And when it pertains to celebrities and cancel culture, it's so bizarre because they cancel themselves. Like I said, they have a glutton for punishment and repent, and they don't win anyway. Like they like atone for their sins, but then people don't even forgive them. And it's just a lose. So in the end, what is the point, right? So again, to me, it's all about what it represents. And I'm going to tie this all into the end, but this is kind of the lens that I'm viewing all of this through when I'm looking at all of this stuff, right? So yeah, I know, who would have thought, like, it's a Saturday and I'm bringing you all to church, nothing like getting into the controversy of religion. I mean, just a light topic, and to go from one light topic, light and easy breezy, beautiful cover girl, to the next, but rape. Okay, so again, keeping it light here. Okay, so the first up at bat is Ashton Kutcher, because everybody is talking about this, and it, really pertains to all of this. And not all of these people I'm going to be talking about today. That's the thing. It's like, I feel like some of them are canceling themselves, where others are actually taking a stand and differentiating the two, right? And we'll see how they all play out, if it bodes well for them in the end, either way. Ashton Kutcher just yesterday, I believe, stepped down from his decade-and-a-half organization he co-founded called Thorn, which is an advocacy group that he has committed so much of his life and attention to against sex trafficking, sex abuse, all these things. And why did he do this? He did this preceding a really cringe apology video. So like, today is all about the apology video, and this is not that. An apology video he did with his wife, Mila Kunis. So first comes love, then comes the apology video, then comes you resigning and stepping down from your own organization. And why did they do an apology video like a la Sarah McLachlan, Arms of an Angel, with like dying cats basically in it? Because they wrote character letters of their dear friend, Danny Masterson, who was just sentenced to 30 years to life in prison on 2 counts of rape. So let's dive into this a little before I explain like what happened with Ashton, like what it all entailed, right? So just in sum, there were 3 women in this case who came forward, and I could have gone down and that's like probably why my hair has accumulated so much grease today, because I was like in a cave. I could have gone down such a rabbit hole. I literally read the victim statements, really going down this path. But basically, there are 3 women in this trial: Jane Doe 1, 2, and 3, which was his ex-girlfriend of a number of years. And all these alleged instances happened in the early 2000s. The women were like Danny in Scientology, right? So they account especially the first 2, recount their experiences of the alleged rape. And then how basically the Church of Science, they came forward and the church covered it up, right? Which also goes to say how corrupt any big organization or businesses. I mean, when you think about the NFL, if you guys remember last year, I did a whole thing about how they let Deshaun Watson slide when he had like an entire town of people accusing horrible things against him, which many came, to be true. So what's interesting is the 3rd woman, who's the ex-girlfriend. So the jury found the first 2 were in fact, as they say, that it was true that they were raped by Danny, drugged them with alcohol, with drugs in the drinks. They alleged, it really is graphic. It will make your stomach turn, the statements, right? But they were stumped and they couldn't come to a conclusion with the ex-girlfriend. Which makes it all murky, right? And gets into a whole other kind of thing of like how legitimate, statements are and people coming forward are, and all this, right? Which has been like what has made all of this such a huge, again, in this Me Too climate, like a he said, she said, why do people wait 20 years? The stories matching up and all this and that. And I will say, stay tuned, because I have a really dynamic, very intellectual panel with 2 women that I'm going to post very soon. And this is part of it. It's all about the line of feminism and our man-hating culture. And we get into all this. So just a little stay tuned on that, because it's very good. It's different than normal episodes, but it's really good. But yes, so all of these factors are at play. And I will also have you know that there was a mistrial when this was first brought about, because the jury couldn't come to a unanimous decision about the women. So it's also interesting that his wife is wholeheartedly standing by him. She's saying that she's so devastated, has no plans to divorce him, is completely standing by his side. You know, he has a daughter and all this. And I also said in my last episode, again, I have no dog in this race. I have no definitive answer. I have no idea if this guy did or didn't do any of these things. At the time, I said I had a hunch that something had gone down. And I said that because, number one, whenever Scientology is in the mix, you know it's Slim Shady. And because I thought that what I'd read at the time of the victims' statements were so eerily similar. And I also thought it was weird that he never spoke out to defend himself during the trial. Like, you would think if it were you, wouldn't you like shout from the rooftops, like, this is egregious. I would never do this. This is an abomination, right? So those are all the kinds of things that fed into this, but again, I'll never know. All of this is he said, she said. Ashton Kutcher and his wife, Mila Kunis, who starred on That 70s Show with Danny, wrote character letters to the judge asking for a more lenient sentence. Now, this is something that the media fails to report, is they were two of a slew of people. The two people who played the parents on the 70s show wrote character statements, letters, what have you. Business leaders in his community wrote to like what an upstanding person he was. Like, I saw there was like a Jersey Mike's owner, wrote about charity work, all this kind of things, right? You have police officers writing on behalf of Danny's account. Now, all of this is to say that these letters in the end don't even really have that much effect on the outcome. And people are acting like it's the end all be all. But basically these letters are all public now. And the common through line through all of them that Ashton and Mila's represent is just, again, how good and solid of a man this was, like an exemplary human being, a father, a friend, somebody who always was a leader and would steer people in the right direction, and was so like in the Hollywood circuit where it can be, really you're tempted with a lot of drugs and all kinds of things, how Danny always like put people on the right path, and we're like, don't do this. Like Mila Kunis says that, they all say this, right? Like being in Hollywood where you have all of these external factors, he really helped keep our head on straight, right? So again, you don't know. That's not to say that, like, obviously this wasn't a Harvey Weinstein where everyone knew he was an outward absolute like dick and like rotten person. And you don't know, like when I first read these, it's like, okay, but like you can still be a charmer and have done really bad things like this. But then it makes you also think like, these are people who are sticking up for their really dear, good friend, like, neighbor, coworker, whatever it is, who've known him for, upteen amount of years. Right. So what does that say? That this is like just a view into who this person is through all these people's eyes, right? Like, shouldn't that that does make you think like, that does that account for something? So basically they just got completely blasted and what have you. But Ashton and Mila do these really cringe apology videos now. Like I said, you would think it was like orphans with two teeth, dogs with half hair on their bodies, just stray in the street, like this whole sob story about how they were so sorry for writing this letter for their friend. And that's because people were saying with Ashton Kutcher's organization, like, you're silencing the very people that you and your organization and your efforts try to protect and all of this. And I also will say there have been all these resurfaced videos of Ashton and Danny like talking about Hillary Duff and women when they were younger. And it's like, see, and I just think that's completely ridiculous. Like, it's so telling of this time. It was a different time. That never excuses things as extreme as rape, but come on now. And also, something to note here too, is like this guy's being totally crucified, Ashton Kutcher. And again, where is this energy for all the celebrities and movers and shakers and important people who were like chilling up on Epstein's island? Like, where is that to be seen? Ghislaine Maxwell, same thing, like never heard of her again. Like, where is this lady? So, where the attention is put on the media is also interesting. But anyway, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis do this whole video saying like, we always, side with victims. We put so much work into this. Like, we don't want to take away from them. We would never want to shut out their stories. And that wasn't enough. And next thing we know, Ashton Kutcher steps down from his own organization. And I just think that I think that it's crazy. Like people are like, good, bye. You know, again, this weird obsession with like punishing people, again, rapists aside, right? Who deserve punishment in the worst way, right? For the most heinous crimes. But let me tell you a little bit about like the kind of work Ashton Kutcher has put into this endeavor, right? So again, he created this with Demi Moore, this organization, in 2009. In 2017, he spoke to Congress about this issue, like breaking down in tears about why it's such a pressing issue. Sex trafficking and sex slavery and sex abuse is such an pressing issue. And then just 2 years ago, he did a whole other video urging the EU to be more thorough and to like rattle big tech, basically to track this kind of sex trafficking and grooming and what have you online, right? So this isn't a guy who takes this lightly. So all of this goes to say, to me, they're not mutually exclusive. To me, he can still have an account of his dear friend and still fight for this issue. And the fact that we've made it, again, guilty by association, to me is really sad. And what's even more sad is that people are so fed up with it. And this is what has been true from the beginning of this whole thing. Like people are so fed up with it because it's like there's no humanity. It's like, okay, even if he did misstep, and I'm not gonna lie, reading the statements, I was like, it's a little bit in like, it makes you feel really cringe, like reading the statements of these victims. And then for Ashton Kutcher, who has put so much into this to, defend his friend, maybe it isn't a little bit of bad taste. Okay. Like what I've done, I don't know, but it isn't a little bit of bad taste, maybe, sure. But again, like, why does it have to eradicate everything else? Like both things can be true. Again, they're not mutually exclusive. And this is where people are fed up because you take everyone out. And it's like, even after this really sad Oscar not worthy sob story video, people like they're still going to be burned at the stake. So it's like, there's no winning. What is the point? And that's why people are really fed up because, like I've said from the beginning, now they're more irritated with this whole movement, with anyone speaking out, with victims, and with this whole, again, sob story, pity party for people's own selves to like cancel themselves. Like, what is the deal? It's getting really weird, like I said. So people are just fed up with the whole culture of how you can't misstep or make one mistake as a human and, get totally ruined and everything you've worked for ruined. And in this case, like you're doing it to yourself. Like, why couldn't he just be like, listen, both things are true. This was an amazing example of a person who helped keep my life and everyone I know around me on track. And also I've dedicated so much of my life to this cause. Like the limit apparently does exist. Like you guys are all in need of help. So, okay, moving on, someone else who did this to themselves was Drew Barrymore. So Drew Barrymore, this is really just a whole thing. Okay. I thought this was a satirical Babylon Bee, the Onion post, because I see her face and here we are on the heels of the Ashton Mila, like sad video for themselves. And here is Drew Barrymore. And it says, actor takes down apology video, basically after getting backlash from other actors. And I'm thinking like, you literally cannot make this shit up. Like you cannot make this shit up. But indeed it was not. Okay, so this lady does a eulogy video for herself, basically. And again, no one asked. But apparently people did. Basically, the reason that your TVs that you don't own because no one cares have not been graced with every Jimmy, John, Steven, white guy with glasses who literally isn't funny and has brown hair and is probably around 6 foot and sits behind his little desk in his suit and tie, hasn't been on late night, is because of the writer's strike and the SAG strike going on at the same time. This is a whole controversy. I'm not going to get in the weeds, but the strike has been going on since like the beginning of time. And it's because crew members and actors, and we're not talking like the Merrills, right? Character actors, all these people who work really hard on these productions are fighting for fair rights and protections, right? Fair wages, overtime, insurance, like all this kind of stuff. Now, this in and of itself, I empathize, but also as being, maybe I'm just used to the abuse of being a freelancer in this business, but they also haven't been doing themselves any favors sometimes because the entitlement is just palpable. Like, Rachel, what's her name? The girl who plays Snow White was like, you guys don't even understand. I stood out there for 12 hours in a Snow White princess dress and I wasn't fairly paid. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. Tell that to your like local EMT, firefighter, neurosurgeon, someone in the trenches, like policeman. Okay. I don't want to hear it, sis. So you guys haven't been doing yourselves any favors in that regard. And also, they've argued we are not getting paid fairly for the cost of living, now, and I get it. Like, I get they're trying to protect themselves from greedy, CEOs and or corporations who, keep all this money for themselves and like share the wealth a little bit. Totally get that. But on the other end of it, it's like, get a reality check. No one's getting paid for what the cost of living is. Like, check any sector. Like, we're all struggling out here, right? Like, that is America in 2023. So get with the program. So in solidarity, all the shows have gone off the air, right? And because writers can't perform, but talk show hosts, writers and actors, they can't, right? It's contractually, they can't do this. And also it's just like in bad taste. That's why they're not promoting their movies, anything like that. But talk show hosts don't count. So Drew Barrymore puts out a whole thing that her show is going to come back. And she explains why. And of course, she gets goddamn blasted. She gets blasted by her peers. She gets blasted by the likes of Alyssa Milano, of Deborah Messing, of what's his name, Bradley Whitford, all just saying like, not cute, sis. Like, you need to stand with the rest of us and blah, 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 blah. So what does she do? She goes on, because also her, again, it's like the Ashton Kutcher thing, like reading the room. If I were her, would I be putting my show back on when her own writers are like picketing outside? Kind of awkward. Like, I want to have their backs, right? But in her defense, she also explains why she wanted to put the show back on the air. She was saying, we launched during COVID. We launched in a time when people needed hope and entertainment and escape and inspiration. And we're kind of living through that again now. So, let's bring it back and do that. And so again, she posts her own eulogy, sans makeup, sans nothing, like, poor Drew, former child star struggling, like former drug addict, like can't catch a break. She's like, I've been through my own ups and downs. And this is just another one, like sobbing like Ariana Grande talking about getting fillers. Like, girl, no one cares. And we all knew, like, give me a break. It's like, do you think I'm blind? Drew Barrymore, yes, does this whole thing. Like, it's ups and downs. And this is another one. I'm so sorry, like crying for herself. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And like, kind of like, I don't want to say street cred, but like the backup of Ashton Kutcher, where it's like, okay, but I've also done A, B, C, D. People conveniently have forgotten that Drew Barrymore decided to drop out of hosting the MTV Movie Awards in solidarity with the people on strike. Okay. And in light of her saying that, I don't even know what this shindig is, what this get together is, but in light of saying she's going to bring the show back, she was dropped as host of the National Book Awards. Like, I don't even know what to say. Mark Twain is shaking. Mark Twain is like, I'm sorry, Drew. Like, I tried to have your back on that one and you're on your own, sis. So needless to say, it's like all of this, right? It's like, again, y'all punish yourself, and for what? Nothing's enough, because like, why bury yourself, dig your own grave, nail the coffin when no one is bringing you sovereignty anyway? Like, no one is letting you atone anyway. So why do it to yourself? And that's the other thing, right? It's like, we're going to praise people, like, because all the Jimmys, like Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, have been supporting their writers and their staff and created a podcast, and the funds go to them and they're not doing their shows and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what an exemplary, again, image to put on a pedestal of a human, when meanwhile, Jimmy Fallon, this guy allegedly has like suicide rooms for his staff who have existential mental breakdown crises because of erratic, he allegedly is a narcissistic on set. So it's like, let's pick our battles, shall we? Yeah. So all that goes to say, like, I think she has a point. Maybe it's in bad taste, but you know what? Like, it's her choice. And it makes me think, again, we're all so goddamn judgmental. And it makes me think, like, if I were to go in the archives of Alyssa Milano, of Bradley Whitford, of all these people, it's like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were the disciples. I didn't realize that you were Jesus. Like, who are you? And why do we have to have everyone fit our standards of what we think is okay? Like, who decided? Who decided? No one. Like, the big man, the big presence upstairs, they decide. So like back off. So now someone else who is in the hot seat right now is Bill Maher, because like Drew Barrymore, he stated that he's going to bring his show back. He tweeted this whole thing saying, look, like, I get what the people on strike are doing. I hope it works out for them, basically. But he's like, my people have to get back to work. This is getting a little ridiculous. And in some ways, I agree with him. Like, some of the asks they want, again, are like a little entitled and ridiculous, you know? While some is justified 100%, like, I get what he's saying here. And, you know, he said, like, in spirit and to stand with them, again, like, I won't be writing anything. I won't have my writers. I won't have a monologue. I won't have, like, he won't do his, you know, little staple, what is it called? New rules segment at the end, stuff like that. Right. And he even said, like, the show will suffer and it will not be the same. Right. And, you know, it's really interesting to me too, because all of these show hosts are giving themselves like the biggest pat on the back. Like, we're going to do a show, but I won't have my writers. It's like, bro, congratulations. Do you want a cookie? That's what Talk to Me, Taylor, Cancel Me, Baby is every goddamn day. You're looking at the writer, the producer, the marketer, the editor, the host right here, bitch. So like, congratulations. And I'll give you a trophy. Like, welcome to my world. But, you know, again, he is just getting the complete and utter wrath. And he said, like, he is still going to employ his people. He's like, my people here are suffering and they need to get back to work. And the reason that he's getting so much shit, as is Drew Barrymore, is because they're saying, you guys are basically saying the strike doesn't matter and that Hollywood can like sustain itself, and like it's washing away and eradicating everything that we're fighting for over here. So that's why people are so pissed, because it's like, if one of us fall, we all fall, and it's showing that like the strike isn't really necessary, etc. So someone who, like, people are just trolling him really hard. Like, number one is the troll in chief, Keith Olbermann, which, like, I don't even know how or why. I just don't know how or why. Again, I need to see. Listen, like I said, I'm a free speech gal. Everyone has a right to their platform, but like, I need to see the employment decision, documentation, the papers, because just why? Like, why? Even the fact that I'm giving energy and attention to this guy right now is astounding, but it's worth noting because it shows again how judgmental and how angry everybody is. He said, fuck you. He said, you know, I've known you since X year. To Bill Maher, he said, you selfish, unfunny scumbag. And like, that's the thing too, like the Drew Barrymore thing. I saw flack against Bill Maher, and it's saying, oh, he can't not be in the limelight. He's such a narcissist. And they both, and you know, who knows how much of that is true with either of them. But I do believe a part of it is, you know, call me an optimist, but I do, and you know, I'm the first one to call these fuckers out, but I do believe that there's a sense of like, you know, the show must go on. I want to help support my people. And also, like, I want to entertain people in this bleak time and do my craft. Like, okay, is that, you know, selfish and narcissistic? That's up to you. I mean, again, let's discern a little bit. And my favorite, though, is who else but the audacity of AOC to weigh in on this, on Drew and Bill Maher. Yeah, Drew Barrymore and Bill Maher. She's like, I am with the picketers always. This is coming fresh off of this girl on the streets of New York City, getting apps, like having like barbarians screaming at her. Okay. And rightfully so, might I add, about how all just the influx of alien immigrants and illegal immigrants has just been like completely, like, New York City is Gotham. And that is not to be a xenophobe. My own mom is an immigrant, so get over yourself. But that's just to say, like, just flooding the streets and resources going to them, and just like walking down the streets, how it's a different city. And people are screaming in her face at this press conference, like, close the border, all this. So I just think it's so rich for this girl to be preaching about picketers, okay, when she has this whole thing going on in her backyard. It's like, ma'am, if you could please, you know. Another person is the creator of Power, who posted to their Instagram against Bill Maher to picket outside of his studio when he starts shooting. And I saw some comments that I agreed with. It's like, or, you know, you could put the energy and the effort into like getting your show and your staff cared for and paid for, right? So again, all of this like tribal mentality, and it's like, let's take a seat, if you will, and see where the person's coming from and what's going on, versus your own like tribal team up on people shit. Like, again, no room for error. I didn't realize you were all like, the perfect specimen of a human being. Yes, like I said, people with all of this are just fed up with all of it. Like, let Bill do what he wants to do. It's his decision, not yours, and live and let live. Okay. So, lastly, and which was a shocker, which was the bombshell that is not on your screen right now with a mic. Oh, no, she didn't know. The bombshell reporting that we did not expect, but Russell Brand. So Russell Brand, who is like our modern day somehow spiritual guru, like came out of like alcoholism, sex addiction, all this crazy shit, and is the person on the internet of like source and light, and is challenging with truth, like big pharma, big government, big tech, like the power structures that run our lives. It's crazy. And what happens, but literally today, there is a whole expose in the UK, and a couple other media outlets are working, I believe it's with The Sun, about 4 women like Danny Masterson accusing Russell Brand of assault and rape in the early 2000s. I think his time frame expands from like 2006 to 2013, which, by the way, includes the time he was married to Katy Perry, which was, I think, until 2012. So get your popcorn, because shit's about to be real ass interesting. I would not be surprised if Katy Perry, like, unwarranted, like has not been provoked. Like, this whole thing is happening with him over here. And if she comes out with like an apology video about something that has nothing to do with anything crying, just mark my words, you wait. Okay. So Russell Brand is accused. And this is where and again, I don't know facts, hopefully, and, due process will prove what is and isn't true. But again, I think already, given that it's been like all of 2 hours, this tells so much about us and our culture and all this. And I will say, unlike a lot of the others, Russell Brand and Bill Maher hasn't caved that I've seen yet. And I don't see him doing that. And I hope he doesn't, because it's like, stand by your guns. But Russell Brand, what I actually respect is that he did not do some, sob story apology video, nor like a Danny Masterson just kind of stay silent, which is what, like I said, which is why I was a little sus. Like, why wouldn't you say something? And I get in that position. It's like, is it a lose-lose? Because if you don't say anything, you look sus. But then if you defend yourself, is it looking like you are guilty and you're trying to defend yourself, and then you're sus, right? But either way, regardless of what happens with this, I can respect that Russell Brand got ahead of everything and because that's his whole brand. It's like, he is the truth teller of the internet. Like, it really is like, watch out to all the other prophets, because like, watch out to you, Gandhi, watch out to the Dalai Lama, like watch out to you, Joe Rogan. This guy is really coming in hot. And I thought, how contradictory to his brand if he were to like pull a, PR covered, like act like it didn't happen, or just stay quiet, or this or that, right? Because his whole thing is about airing stuff out, like the really uncomfortable societal nooks and crannies no one wants to go to. And he didn't right away. He put up a video and getting ahead of all of it, saying all of this is egregious. Like, I can't help but think that there is some kind of like concerted effort against me. Like, all of the things were consensual. And what I respected is how he said, like, I have been so transparent. I've been over transparent, in fact, about my promiscuous past and sex addiction. I talked about it in a book I'd written, all this. And why I say this is so telling of our time. And look, like, if he did do, and that's where, again, it's so divided, right? Because there are some people who are like, oh, rock star, former, narcissist actor who had all these issues. Like, why am I not surprised? But what I've seen is a majority of people, which is why people are so fed up with all of this, is saying, what a coincidence. Like, you happen to have this huge platform telling truths and this and that. And it does seem like a coordinated effort. Some of the comments that stood out to me were things like, you must be doing something right if this attack is against you, or, they'll do anything to stop a free thinker, or it's a land of the free unless we don't agree with you, So all that goes to say, it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out, but it really does make you think, like, is this some kind of coordinated effort? Is it a little suspicious? And I did read some of what those accusers have said. So again, none of it is easy to hear, and none of it is pleasant by any means. But that said, I can appreciate that he did not do the whole like repent, crucify himself, the whole thing, and staying true, it seems like, to who he is. And it seems like that's real, and being transparent. And it seems like that's really sticking, to sticking with people, and people are really resonating with that. So that's one where I can say, regardless of what happens, and again, if we do come to find that he is guilty of these things, then he should be punished as such. And none of that is excusable, and it's all egregious. But I can say I respect that he really stood up for himself right away and was completely transparent and forthright. So, we will see what pans out with all of this, because I'll tell you right now, if it is any sort of concerted effort or, exaggerated tales or this or that, like I've been saying, it is not going to be good for actual victims who need to be heard and be taken seriously, because all of this on the whole, these like, Oscar wannabe apology speeches, the back and forth, the putting up the apology and then taking it down and all this, and no room for error, which again is different than an actual crime. It has people really fed up. So we don't want that, and that's never going to be good if we actually come to find that, and then people are going to be distrustful of accusers and stories and victims even more, and we don't want that. We want people, rightfully so, who deserve justice, to get that right and to be heard, and not let all of like the other distractions wash that away and take that away from them. So let's take it back to the beginning from, your fave rabbi here, okay? So when I think about all of this with repent and with sin and, atonement, I thought about with Judaism how, we have one holiday, which is Yom Kippur, which is a day to reflect, and, you fast and reflect on your sins and all of this. And it made me think, that should be a way we could all learn something from that. And I feel like that should be a way all of us should live. Again, rapists aside, they do not count. But I do think it's like, okay, acknowledging like my behavior, my actions in the past year, my missteps, my failures, that's okay. Things I did that weren't okay, and reflect on that, and growth, right? And then the rest of the time really being dedicated, like I said, to light and bringing light and being grateful we're here, and all of the abundance and amazing things that life has to offer. When I look at all of these, these sob stories, it's like, really, whether it be the people making these sad, pathetic little videos, whether it be the people attacking them, it's like, look, we all have our choices, and that's their choice. Okay. You have your choice, and just stop being so judgmental. And again, this glutton for, repenting both, on others and ourselves, putting less energy and attention on the repent and the sin and the condemnation, and more in the positive and the light. And that's all I can leave you with, at this sermon on from your fave little Jew, is in all of this, why do it to yourself? Why do it to other people? And just really be a light.